Hello folks, welcome to GingerLion's modded Minecraft Let's Play. This is going to be episode 13, and I wanted to show you what I've been working on between episodes, because I told you I was going to. So, first, I learned recently that there's a thing better than lava to place underneath your crucibles, and that's if you take netherrack and light it on fire, it apparently operates your crucibles a heck of a lot faster, so I went ahead and did it. And I built myself a couple of farms. So I decided to run my ME cable and my redstone conduits out here and operate these not with tesseracts. Here are my farms. I've got one soybean farm over here. This is the largest of my farms other than the mushroom farm. And it's operating using 4 sprinklers, each of which is being filled with bone meal. And the harvester, obviously, and the planter underneath. This is my mushroom farm, and I learned some very interesting things about mushrooms, mostly by experimenting. It turns out that the process of making witch water causes mushrooms to grow extremely rapidly. And it does it in a 5 by 5 square, with the witch water creation being centered. So what I've got is a whole bunch of barrels down here with fluid export buses set to export water, fluid import buses set to import witch water, and then back in my base I've got a little system so that if it ever goes above 50 buckets of witch water, which it does constantly, it exports that into a fluid void. I'll show you that when I get back inside. But I wanted to quickly show you the rest of my farm so you have some idea what I'm operating from to run the rest of the episode. Here are my farms. In every case we have a harvester set with a tin upgrade. We have a sprinkler set with bone meal export. Looks like I need to go get me some more bones and break them into bone meal. And I've got a whole collection of them out here. One for each of the things that I intend to push into my bioreactor, which is what I intend to operate fuel out of. It's also a necessary quest, and so that seemed to make a lot of sense to me. The only set of farms that are any different whatsoever, and they're only very mildly different, are these first 2 right here, and that's because they don't require planters. These are 2 crops, spice leaves and tomatoes, that don't require a planter because the harvester doesn't tear them down completely. You'll notice only a water export here. I'm also using fluid export buses to export water into all of these, and basic export buses to import the necessary seeds. So, let me run back to my base and show you what I've got going on here. Up the stairs. So, at the moment, I've got this terminal, and it looks like I need another source of water because I'm not making as much water as I'm using, and my witch water is hovering right around 49 or 50 barrels. You know, sludge comes in and goes out, and comes in and goes out. That's fine. Down here in my basement, I set up a fluid void. Let me show you the recipe for that real quick. Oh, that's the fluid level emitter. I almost can't get to this. So, let me fluid void. Fluid void is very simply an ender pearl surrounded by iron and fluid crystals, relatively cheap, and I've got 2 level emitters. One set up so if it ever goes above 50 buckets of witch water. One set up so if it ever goes over 900 buckets of water, each one will kick in the appropriate fluid export bus and pump those liquids into the void. So I don't have a lot of wasted space. Also, did a little bit of upgrading of my drives. I was running out of storage. I had enough types, but not enough bytes, so went ahead and did that. You know, so I'm hardly using anything in terms of fluid storage. It's because I'm almost out of water. So, now, it is time for me to show the setup of the bioreactor. here's what I'd like to do. I would like... Oop, that wasn't what I was looking for. There we are. I need an export bus. I actually need 2 export buses. What do I have? I only have basic export buses, so I need 2 precision export buses. There they both are. I need a fluid import bus. I need some cable. I'm going to toss these items in here, and I'll show you why. I have over here the items that I intend to use in the bioreactor. I made a stack of each one to make sure that I had enough. The bioreactor will take any type of seed, take any type of sapling. I'm not 100% sure about mod saplings, but I do know that Hunger Overhaul seeds work just fine, and rubber saplings from Mine Factory Reloaded. Given that this bioreactor is made by Mine Factory Reloaded, that makes no surprises whatsoever, and both types of mushrooms. So those are what I'm going to be using for the moment to produce fuel. And I can set this up right over here. Seems good. Bioreactor will go right here. I'm going to set the 2 precision exports on those 2 sides. This one I'm going to set to the 2 types of mushrooms, ink sacs, seeds, and the 2 types of saplings. And the other I'm going to set up for these 3 items. I only have 8 spots, and I need 9, which is why I did it this way. I'm actually going to take the rubber sapling out and move it over here. That more evenly sets things up. And I'm going to set them to move stacks. There's not going to need to most of the time, but... And then I'm actually going to run it before I take a fluid export off of it, just so that you can see how it works. Let's see, let's connect that to the network. Now this is immediately going to push into here stacks of each of these items. And it looks like it didn't do it quite like I would want it to, so let's go ahead and make sure that we've got some of each thing included. It looks like it's not going to take tomatoes. Let me actually just take a moment and break these. Unfortunately, we take all the seeds out. Mushrooms are already in there. How about the other type of mushroom? Good. Now it has that. And it's not going to take the tomato, but I'm willing to bet it will take tomato seeds. Am I right? Yes, I am. So, I'm going to have to go set up an auto-crafting recipe. I will be right back. Okay, folks, so I made a slight change to the configuration. I set all the things that I'm not crafting in this, because that I can then move in stacks. And over here, I set this to move single items and craft. And I pre-filled this grid in hopes that that will, well, we'll see. I'll show you. So let me connect all of that. And yes, it's keeping this full. Now, because this has 9 different types of items it can work with in its inventory, it's running at a massive efficiency. Which is exactly what I want, because I am going to be pulling this biofuel off, and later I'm going to be using it to run some generators. You notice it sucked all the biofuel out of here. The buffer is trying to empty as fast as it can. The system is basically pulling the biofuel out anyway. I didn't set this to any outrageous speed or anything, what's going to happen is once this buffer empties enough, it's going to take one item from each of these slots and refill its internal buffer. This might mean, depending on how fast this processes, which I'm beginning to think is going to be every minute or so, it's going to pull one of each one of these items. If that's how it works, I may very well set up 10 more of these to produce biofuel, because quite frankly, the quest, let me go and get you, well, actually, I'd like to stick here and watch to see what happens when this buffer empties. So the quest involves, I think it's 10,000, but it might be 100,000 buckets of biofuel. And if this can only empty its buffer at the rate of, oh, there you go. See, it just took one from each one of those, and my export buses filled them up. So it looks like this is only producing at the rate of a millibucket a tick, which is not really going to be enough to feed either my systems or my quest. So let's go ahead and look. Yeah, it looks like we're producing almost exactly 20 millibuckets a second, which is one a tick, which is perfectly acceptable. I didn't know there was an empty bucket there, which is a perfectly acceptable situation, but it's not going to be enough for the quest. So let me just take a look at the quest so I can show you what it is before we move forward. It is under Go with the Flow, I believe, for biofuel. We need 16,000. Am I reading that right? Yes. 1,600. We need 1,600 buckets of biofuel. That's not a small amount, and given that I'm only getting a bucket every couple of minutes, that's not quite going to be enough. So let me take just a couple more minutes, and I will make another couple bioreactors and set them up, and then we can move forward on converting this biofuel into power. See you in a minute. Hello, folks. So, I clearly went a little overboard. I built 3 towers of these instead of just adding a couple. And when I did so, I realized that I may or may not be overloading my system in terms of how many units of whatever I'm using. So, the moment this 4 are shut down because I'm not pulling the biofuel out, I've disconnected these output buffers. So these are full of biofuel and just sitting here waiting. And I've got these monitors set up so that I can monitor what it is that I have in the system and what I'm using up at what rate. So we shall see. But if you'll note, we have 794 buckets of biofuel already made. I really like that. That makes me happy. And so I'm going to let that run for a little while before I tap into anything, and it's time for me to work on another project. So, what project am I going to work on for the duration of this episode? Well, I think it's time for me to build a structure to house this, and my whole pulverization line, and I'm just generally going to move all of this equipment around. So the first step in that process for me is to shut these systems down. So let me just tear them down. And while I'm at it, let's see what's in any of these. There are a whole bunch of ore sands in there. This is empty. That's where those items come through to, and that has a small amount of gravel still in it. So that's all still flowing down through the tubes, as it were. So I'm going to spend just a little while figure out where I want to set this up. I've got a lot of farming going on over there, and my house over here, and maybe that way, or maybe I'm just going to build it up above this, because this area is something I'd like to tear down. I'm really tired of cobblestone flooring. So, we'll see. I'll be right back in a minute, folks. Wow. So, I've torn down quite a lot of this, and I'm slowly working my way through the rest of it. I tore down my clay assembly line while I was at it. I tore down my all of the pulverization. I tore down my mycelium farm over here, and I'm starting to like the fact that this area is getting all cleaned up. So I think it's time for me to clean up this lava farm, and yeah, just wanted to show you what I'm working on, and I'll be back once I've got it in a slightly better state of order. I think I may very well just remove this flooring. We shall see. You ever just find yourself in a demolishing mood? Playing Minecraft, you start tearing stuff up, and you start deciding you want to tear more stuff up, and it's actually kind of satisfying. Anyway, I just wanted to point out that I'm tearing a whole bunch of stuff up. I tore up my farm that was over here. Obviously, I tore up my obsidian and smoothstone factory. I tore up the aqueous accumulator that was over here in the corner. And I think now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick up a relatively large chunk of this and remove all of this flooring and start thinking about exactly what flooring and what building I'm going to put up here. So I'll be right back. So yeah, I think this entire section in here is going to turn into my newest production building. Given that I tore the production line out of here, it's not going to be, a complete gigantic change, but it's going to be a change. So, let me tear up all this flooring and come and replace all this necessary stuff, and I'll be back once it's time to actually set up the building, because I'd like to set this whole thing up on camera so that you can see what I'm planning and designing. Okay, so here we are, folks. I made myself a little bit of a building, and I'm still got a little bit of work to do for the entrance, but that's fine. Now it's time to set up our actual production facility. So, I think I'm going to base this around my sorting line. I'll show you what I mean by that. I'd like more oak sieves than this. Let's see, I want sand, gravel. Actually, I want gravel, dust, soul sand. That sounds like the 3 that I need all the time. Just a sec, let me go verify this. So gravel, sand, dust, and soul sand are the 4 that I would like to run. So I want 2 more sieves, and that's going to involve me going and getting some more string. It is really just about time for me to put these barrels on the network also. But since it's also just about time for me to completely revamp my mob farm, I'm not going to make a big deal of it right now. Sieve. Let's make ourselves some planks. Thank you. And while you're doing that, there are enough sticks, so looks like I'm going to get 2 jungle wood sieves. Okay, so that's 4. That seems good. Yeah, gravel, sand, soul sand, and dust. So, I need 7 autonomous activators per sieve that I'm going to use. So I'm going to ask for 14 more of these. And that's for my sifting line. So let me show you how I intend to lay out my sifting line. I've done a lot of thinking about this, and I've decided that what I'm going to call a trench design is going to work for me best. So let's put some torches up so we don't get any monster spawns. And set these autonomous activators up. So now we want those set up like so. And I'm going to set the bottom ones to aim high. And the top ones to aim low. And these are going to aim level, but I'm going to just look at them once to make sure that I don't, miss anything. Now, we want 4 set up just like so, facing upwards. Those are just fine. And now we need another, nope, not like that. Those 4, aiming high. These 4, and these 4 aiming low. This will give me not absolutely perfect coverage. In fact, to get perfect coverage, I'm going to come over here and ask for 2 more. I'm going to need 4 in the end, so I might as well get them started. Actually, I'm going to need 2 more than that. Okay. A lot of autonomous activators, but I think it's really going to be worth it. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set 1 right here, and 1 right here. That basically allows the 2 sifters, those 2 sieves, on the end to get optimal coverage. Optimal being 8. All of the rest of them are going to get 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, let's place these down. So there's 7 autonomous activators on each and 8 on each of the 2 on the ends. Now, how am I going to set up the next 2 items? Just a moment. I'm going to temporarily place some bricks in the way. Because, actually, why don't I grab... I only have 1 right now, but I want 2. Vacuum hoppers. And I would like my 2 vacuum hoppers set up there and there. And now is where things start to get a little bit tricky, I guess is the best term for what I'm about to do. There's a hole in the ceiling. And what I'd like to do is set up an autonomous activator right here, facing down. And that's where I'm going to place my gravel. And I think I'm going to set it up there. and that's where I'm going to need my hammers. So let me duplicate that setup over on the other side. It looks like my hopper is collecting my stones for me. That's kind of polite. So again, I can place that here. I want one hopper, one autonomous activator there, and one in the ceiling there. The advantage of this setup is that it puts all of the items being sifted as close as even remotely possible to the vacuum hoppers, which are intended to suck them up. So, now, let's get started on... Now, I'm going to go with precision import buses attached to these vacuum hoppers. Nope, not on that side, though. On this side. Because I would like to set these to stack mode just to make sure that anything that gets imported into this gets sucked out as quickly as possible. And given that sometimes these have been known to overwhelm, especially given how much I'm doing with them, I'm going to repeat that on these sides. And that basically guarantees that 2 stacks of items, a process, and I'm not sure exactly what rate the ME system processes at, but 2 items per will, did that work? It did, get pulled out, which hopefully will keep that from backing up. Is that going to work for me? No, it really isn't. So, let me fix that. I don't want this, I want this. Yep. Stack. Stack. Good. Now I'm going to use the pre-configured one. Stack. Those 2 are connected. These 2 are about to be. Yep. There. That'll get my items out of this system. Now, what do I need? I need some export buses. Looks like I got a bunch of pre-configured precision export buses. So let's get those out of the network. Here. Oop, now I know what these are. That I'm going to keep just like it is. That I'm going to keep just like it is. And that I'm going to keep just like it is, because these 3 export buses have been pre-configured for those, which is exactly perfect. So, might as well not mess with them. I'm clearly going to need to run ME cable up into the ceiling, and I feel like right there is a perfectly fine place to do it. The reason is, this allows me to, in a certain way, block the debris that gets broken here from traveling this direction. So, let's figure out which is which. Well, let's try it first. That's good. I like that. That's fine. I'm not sure I like or dislike it. And That's good. So now, this will receive almost all of the gravels and the tin and silver sand, and this will receive all the rest of the sands, which should allow my line to be broken up and processed in 2 different locations. That's good. Let's get out some cable. Connect those. Connect that. And like so. Now, because I set up lighting up on the roof and I was kind of careful about how I had my lighting set up, it's possible that I have messed it up since then. So I'm going to step up on the roof, take a look at my lighting situation. I think I'll just actually leave a access hatch, as it were, while I'm working up here. No, everything seems to be fine lighting-wise. Good. Now, this I would like to set to input from there. Perfect. And this I would like to set to input from there and there. Perfect. Now I'm going to put a roof on top of these, which is going to involve a little bit more edge stone than I have right now. No? No, that'll be just fine. And I'll put a torch on top, just to make everything look pretty. Now, this should... Now, there's 2 things that I have to do that I haven't done yet. I need to make a decision about hammers. I have diamond, gold, iron, stone, wooden, and those are my choices. No? Invar or thaumium. And where am I at in terms of ingots? Wrong place. I feel like I'm in such a good position with iron that it is time for me to make my hammers out of iron. They will last longer, and I have enough iron ingots that I'm sure I will make more iron ingots with each hammer that I'm going to use up. So let's do this. Iron ingot, stick, encode. So now I know how to make an iron hammer. Let's go ahead and drop this pattern in my system. And eat a pizza while I walk back. Let's craft me an iron hammer. Begin. And let's just get something that I have so much of that I don't care about wasting some. Not wasting it entirely, but we'll see. So this, I'm going to set it up to use the first slot only, to accept from here, and then I'm going to fill the rest of the slots with rubber wood and set up a precision export bus. No, that's import. I need export. Where are my export buses? I don't have any more. Ah, yes, I only took the ones that I had. These need to be precision, so I need at least 2 precision export buses. Thank you. Precision export bus, move craft, hammers. Now, that should, as soon as it's connected to the network, put an iron hammer in that slot. And this needs to also be set to left click, because you left click with a hammer to break things. So again, let me set this to left click. Let me remove that. Let me set this as an input. Precision. First slot only. Fill the rest with rubber wood. And move craft, hammers. Good. Now, those are all connected. And I think I only need simple buses for here. So these should be fine. And since I'm already working up high, I will connect these this way. Now, I want sand, dust, soul sand, and gravel. Clear out a hand. And because these two are on the end and they're going to be the most efficient, I'm going to set this one to gravel and this one to dust. And the two in the center, I'm going to set to sand and soul sand. Now, let me put cables in the necessary places to get everything connected together. So, that whole system is connected together, except wanting to run cable here and a cable here. Good. Now, because I'm not a big fan of, items shifting around in there any more than is strictly necessary, I'm going to put some blocks in the way. And I think I'm going to go with something moderately aesthetic, and I think I'll just match the walls in this case. So let's grab these blue-colored bricks. This and that block things from here. And I think the easiest way for me to block things in this direction is just like so. Yeah, and that leaves right here. And right here. So, theoretically, that's a sealed unit that should do its job. I'm going to have to come and check at some point to make sure that it is, and clearly the vacuum hoppers are working. Grab anything that's in the vacuum hoppers right now. Good. And good. Now, before I connect those to the network, just a moment, folks. I need to step off camera for a moment. Sorry about that. Didn't want to cough into the microphone. So, now, I need processes to make all of these items so that they're available. And I've tested this before, and I know that if I just produce one, for example, if I produce one pulverizer making gravel, there's going to be no gravel in my system. So, let me think about what I need. And I'll sort of do it backwards. Let's see. Got plenty of pulverizers right here. I'm going to need to import and export from them, so I don't want them pressed right up against the wall. So I'm going to step them out a little bit, and I think over here is where I'm going to make them. So, if I want to make sure that there's enough dust, I need 2 producing dust. That means that I need 2 producing sand and 2 producing gravel to power them. This is one line that doesn't have any exports, as it were. Now, now then, now what? Now, I want there to be spare sand. I need a block of some kind, just as a separator. No. Nope. I'm going to set these up. So, okay, so let's set these up. Let's just go ahead and get some basic export buses and some basic import buses. Basic export. Basic import. And I've got plenty of power conduit. Good. So the first thing we're going to do is step down onto the floor and get power to these. Let's shut off all of their everythings. So nothing gets confused at all. So, power. Now, if I'm correct, I should have power available right there, just where I wanted it. Good. Now I'll take the builder's one and fill this back in, and fill that back in. And like so. Nice. I do love having the builder's wand immediately available. Now, let's do export. Okay, that doesn't produce any lighting issues. Very good. And finally, we need import. Now, let's set all of these up that way. Back should be import, top should be, actually, I'm going to go that way. So, back, top. Good. All of those set up. Perfect. Now, I need some cobble. This, oh, I already had some. So these two are going to take cobble and turn them into gravel. These two are going to take gravel and turn them into sand. And these two are going to take sand and turn them into dust. There's my dust production line setup. So I'm going to step off camera and set up my production lines for all of my other items, and I'm going to also set up my igneous extruders, and I'll be right back. Okay, folks, so I have all of these igneous extruders. Now let me just make sure they're all set up to produce cobble. I thought they were, but it's possible that some of them are remember their history, as it were. Oh, everything's good. Now, those are all set up with basic import buses to pull items off the back. This line here is set up to produce gravel out of cobblestone. Both of these. This line is set up to produce dust out of cobblestone. And this line is a little bit bigger than it normally would need to be. Normally I would only have built 2 for dust, cobble to gravel, and 2 more for gravel to sand, but I added 1 more each, and I'll show you why. Because one of the things that I want to sift over here is soul sand. Now, I have my farm over there that's making mushrooms, and as a byproduct, it's making quite a lot of witch water. So, what I'm going to do is this, and I'm actually going to do it sort of over here in the corner-ish. I'm going to put down this barrel. I'm going to set a fluid export bus on the side of it, and I'm going to set that up to export witch water. So it'll fill that barrel with witch water for me. And then I would like I had a basic export bus. I do. Basic export bus on the top. And that's going to be set out to put sand in. And it won't do so into the barrel until there's witch water in it, because the barrel won't accept it until there's witch water in it. And then I want a basic import bus slapped on the bottom. Unfortunately, it's a little bit tricky, so I'm going to have to wrench it into place. And that will pull the soul sand out. So, now, cable that. Might as well just drop a cable here, which will connect that. So those are connected to each other. This is connected, and now it's time to go under the floor and make my final connections. So, that's right here, I think. Yeah, that's good. That's my best way of doing this without looking messy. Well, let's tear up the floor like crazy, which I can fix later, and figure out where my best pathing is. Let's make sure nothing ended up in the vacuum hopper. Plenty did, okay. And check this vacuum hopper over here. I don't want them grabbing the wrong things. And hopefully, this will all work. Let's cross our fingers. There are a couple of things that I'm not 100% sure about. For example, I have never tried having the vacuum hopper be handled exclusively by import buses, but I expect it to work. Those systems are now connected with each other, and if I grab my builder's wand, I can seal the floor back up around them. Good. Now, let's go ahead and connect down through here. And let's grab out of the bottom of this one. Those systems are all connected to each other. And that's connected, and that's connected. And theoretically, that leaves everything connected. And I'm believing myself enough that I'm going to go seal up the floor. So let's see how well this is all working. First of all, we're definitely pulling out of these pulverizers. Good. And we're definitely pulling out of these faster than they can be made. Good. And we're definitely exporting our various gravels up there. Good. I can't see the sifters, so I'm going to have to run the risk of... So my sifters, at the moment, are not receiving anything. They're connected, that's for sure. Basic export bus gravel. Oh, these need to be set up to import to the back. Okay. Now, all of my sifters are full. That's what I like to see. I didn't pick up anything that I don't care about there. So now, it's going to take a little bit for this entire system to completely fill up, I think. No, because I'm using my ME system, there's plenty in my buffers. Good, that's what I like to hear. So, let's toss all the rest of this stuff in here and take a look at whether we are gaining or losing, which is my last concern. So let's start with cobblestone. Cobblestone is ticking up, and it's ticking up fast. Good, so sand. Looks like sand is ticking down, but there's a possible reason for that. Let me check these. These are not full yet. So once these autonomous activators are completely full, I may produce a different sign. So let's do this. Go over here to my sand line and fill it. And let's do the same with my soul sand line. Good. Let's see, I definitely need to do the same thing with gravel and dust, if there's any that can be exported. There is not for gravel, nor for dust. Okay, so the only ones that we can check at the moment are sand and soul sand. So where are we doing? We are definitely going up on soul sand and we are staying extraordinarily stable on sand, which is not exactly what I want to hear. So, give me just a minute to check these systems out, and I'll be right back. Okay, folks, so I made a couple of modifications in here, and things are pretty stable. So what I did is I added a line over here of pulverizers that are busy making gravel, except for this one over here, which is making sand. I switched these to using stone hammers and round robin just because they were breaking with the iron ones too quickly, and I decided I was going through iron just a little bit too fast. So now I am stable on gravel, I am stable on soul sand, I am stable on sand, and I'm stable on dust. I found that I was making way too much cobblestone, so I ripped down most of these. I'm now just slightly losing against cobblestone, which is fine, because I have this barrel heel full of cobblestone, and at the moment I have 35,000 in inventory. I'm good. My sand production is stable. My soul sand production is stable. I've got some dust coming in, and so I'm happy on all of that. And finally, I moved my dirt production line in here, and I used AE on it. And as a last thing, while I was doing all that, I decided to run some storage buses to these. So now I'm outputting directly out of these into my generators over there, and directly out of here into my dirt production line. So, as you can see, I've had a little bit of overflow of various kinds in various directions. That's all fine. Let me actually break a stack out of here. So yeah, things are pretty stable over here. Oh, and I did go through the effort. I had actually run out of gunpowder in my system, and so I ran an AE line out there, and I'm using export buses because it's a heck of a lot faster. So that's a stable build, folks. This is getting me all of the resources that I was getting out of my previous system, and a good bit more. I'm actually slightly worried I may have to build myself another smelter in a little bit. Another induction furnace in a little bit. But I'm now getting dirt automatically. I'm getting gravel and sand automatically. I am losing ever so slightly at cobblestone, but that's completely fine given how much of it I have in my system. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I will see you next time. Oh hey, I made a promise to you guys at the beginning of the episode, and I didn't follow through on it. So, I want to come down here and do so. So, when I walked away, I had 1,328 saplings. That's fine. I had 9,101 ink sacs. That's fine. I had 1,190 seeds. It looks like I'm going through seeds ever so slightly faster than I'm making them. I may have to improve that. I had 12,000 and 11,000 respectively of these. I had 1,955 rubber saplings. I had 1,833, so it looks like I need more of a soybean field. I had 1,756, so I need a bigger lettuce field, soybean, lettuce, and seeds. And then my combined total of tomatoes and tomato seeds was just over 1,000. So I'm going to need 2 more tomato fields. So looks like I have myself a little bit of field building to do. So between this episode and next, I'm going to make a soybean field, a lettuce field, a seed field, and 2 more tomato fields so that I can keep up with this system. Or maybe I'll come up with something else that I can feed in here. I'm not sure. I will see you guys next time, folks.